Alright, welcome back to this lecture. Now I want to talk about animation, but a bit more in depth. Instead of setting keyframes, I'm going to show you different types of keyframes that Blender creates. So if you remember, keyframe acts like a marker from one point to another in Blender. But now I'm going to quickly set a keyframe. So I'm going to press on I here, go to frame 30, and then move the cube on the x-axis by 4 meters. So press on GX and move it 1, 2, 3, 4 times. If you want to confirm that it's actually 4 meters, I can press on N, go to item, and then it's actually indeed 4 meters, but it's minus 4 meters because we move here. If I move it here, it's going to become positive 4 meters, but it doesn't really matter in the showcase. So now I'm going to set the end frame to 30 because I don't really need to set this to 90. So I'm going to press here, type 30. And now you can see we get this cube, which is moving from 0 to frame 30. And then we get a smooth movement, which is what we want most of the time when we're making Minecraft animations. But there's actually a way that different keyframes are connected in Blender. So right now, frame 0 and frame 30 are connected by some sort of line. And this line is usually called interpolation. And we have different interpolations in Blender. Now to demonstrate this, I'm going to show you how it looks inside the graph editor. Now I'm going to explain the graph editor basics in the future animation chapter, so you don't have to worry about that right now. But before I open the graph editor, I want to go to Edit, Preferences, and I want to show you what the default keyframe interpolation is in Blender. So if I go inside Animation right here and then scroll down under the F curves, you can see we get different options. But what I want to pay attention is to this, default interpolation, which right now is Bezier. And Bezier interpolations gives us the smooth movement, which you see right now. So if I press on spacebar, we got a smooth movement, smooth natural movement, which is what we want most of the time again. But if we want to change the interpolation, we can click here and we have a bunch of different interpolations. Now, what we want to use most of the time is Bezier again. Sometimes you want to use linear, and that if you want to block out the animations and go more advanced, you can use constant. But I personally almost never use constant. I use Bezier 90 or 95% of the time, and the rest of the time I use linear for more robotic movements or for the root bones, which we're going to do later. Now, we also have these, which are very good for motion graphics, but they're not really used mostly for character animations, so you can basically ignore these. So I want to show you these three interpolations. We have Bezier, linear, and constant. And I want to show you what each of them does. So first I'm going to demonstrate how they look in the graph editor, and then I'm going to show you how they look inside the viewport. So now I'm going to click on the graph editor, and the easy way to enter graph editor is by pressing Ctrl Tab. Or you can actually click on this menu and then enter graph editor, because we have a different menus here. Now I'm going to show you how this keyframe looks. Now you don't have to follow along for now, you can just watch. I'm going to explain how the graph editor works later on. Now I'm going to expand this, hide all of these keyframes, and I'm going to only show you the X location keyframe, which is this one. Now I'm going to use my control and middle mouse to move it out. Again, don't worry about following along. And now you can see the Bezier keyframe, this line, but you can see what kind of animation we get. The cube starts slow, like this, then it speeds up, it creates an S shape, and then it slows down. So now if I take the cube, I can actually change the interpolation. So the way I can change the interpolation by selecting all keyframes. So these two are the keyframes. These two are the same as these ones, diamond shaped ones. But in the graph editor, I get more advanced look at the keyframes, which is why they look simple here and more advanced in the graph editor. But now let's not worry about the graph editor for now. So if you're in the graph editor, take this and then go back to Timely. Now what we want to do is, if you remember, if I want to select everything, I want to press on A. So make sure to hover over the timeline and press on A to select all of your keyframes. Now what I want to do is press on T, and then we're going to get this menu, the exact same menu which we got in the preferences. So now I want to show you how a linear interpolation works. If I select the linear and then watch my animation, you can see the animation is basically evenly distributed across all frames. It's more robotic, it's more linear, which is why it's called linear. Now again, if you want to see the difference, I can press on in the real time, I can press on T and then switch this to Bezier. And you can see Bezier is a lot smoother. Now the third interpolation is the constant. And constant interpolation has actually no movement. It jumps from one position to another. So let me show you what this does. I'm going to press on T and then switch this to constant. And now you can see there's no movement. It jumps instantly. It jumps from 0 to 30, 0 to 30. And that's it. To demonstrate this better, I'm going to go to frame 60 Then I change the location again to something like here. And now you can see the constant interpolation. So you get the idea. Constant interpolation is used by professional animators to block out the movement, but I personally don't use it a lot, so you can avoid using it as well. But feel free to play around with it and feel free to dig deep into it if you want. But for now, I mainly want to show you linear interpolation and Bezier interpolation. Now I want to show you a demonstration of how different keyframes look. So if I press on play, you can see the different interpolations. This is Bezier, this is linear, and this is the constant. They take the same time, the exact same time to reach from 0 to 30, but they do it way differently. So that's why keyframe interpolation matters. And we're going to dive deep into the keyframe interpolation and all the other types of keyframes when we jump into the graph editor episodes. But for now, you mainly want to use the Bezier keyframe for natural movements and linear in some cases, which we're going to dive deep into other animation projects when we start making walk cycles and other character animations. And constant, again, you can jump into it, but I don't really use it myself a lot. So yeah, that's pretty much it about the keyframe interpolation. And now we can move on to the next lectures.